Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster. We're part of the Nerd Party Network, packed with podcasts, starting with Nerd Up Show, A24 project and retro perspective on a Monday, all the way through to Missing Frames on a Sunday. Today I'm joined again by blogger and scream queen Kim Morrison. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Did you have a good time last time? Did you? I know it's always a nervous experience doing the first one. Are you excited for round two?
I am, yeah. I had so much fun. I love talking about horror films that I love, so I'm always excited to do it.
Well, on this episode of the show, we're discussing slashers, and no, it's not Simon Skinner and his supermarché, but the slashers that follow the success of Scream. So we're going to talk about 5 films in release order: I Know What You Did Last Summer, Halloween H2O, Urban Legend, Cherry Falls, and Valentine. So you picked all 5 of these films, Kim. What about these 5 films made you think, right, these are the ones I want to talk about? I've seen your DVD shelf. There's hundreds of films on there. Why these films?
I think it was just because, like I said before, like when I was watching the Scream films, that was sort of when I was getting into horror and kind of developing my own taste for stuff, I think, because when I was younger, I probably watched a lot of stuff that my mum and dad recommended or had in the house. So when these films were coming out, these were ones that like I was seeing the trailers for. I was really excited. I remember renting actually most of them because I couldn't go to the cinema and see them. I was still too young. And then just buying them on DVD or video when they came out. And they were just, I feel they were just a sort of collection of films that really kind of shaped my love for horror and the type of films that I really enjoy now.
Like, I remembered when I was sort of going through a lot of these films, watching them, and my memories of them were, I'd only ever watched I Know What You Did Last Summer, but when I thought about these films, the image I had in my head was like Blockbuster Video and really oversized VHS plastic boxes of all of these movies. That was something I just had in my head. And I remembered a weird thing of, like, for Valentine, like passing by it was one of those other video rental places, and like for about 6 months they had like a display thing of Valentine in their front window. Every time I drove into Aberdeen I saw that sign.
Yeah, I think I just kind of remember them being everywhere. I think especially like Halloween H2O, I remember the trailer for that just being on all the time, and just being really excited to actually be able to see all these horror films for the first time.
So we'll kind of dive into them, and I'm sure we'll talk about your experiences of them as we go along. But sort of the first one up is I Know What You Did Last Summer. So this kind of obviously ties in quite nicely to sort of our Scream discussion last week. So the screenplay is by Kevin Williamson and came only sort of a year after Scream. So what was it about this film? Like, this was the one I had seen. What's your kind of thoughts on this film, and why is it a special one to you?
I think I quite like I Know What You Did Last Summer because even though it's like a slasher, there's sort of a lot of actual like tension as opposed to lots of people kind of getting murdered. So you kind of have your core group of 4 characters, and we sort of spend like the first hour and 10 minutes of the film with them before one of them gets killed. And I think even now watching it, I still find it a lot scarier than like the Scream films or some of the other films here, because the killer is so willing to just mess with the characters and really get them like terrified before he actually comes and kills them. So I really like that, and I think even now, like I said, watching it again, I still think it's really scary, and I think that's quite cool that it's lasted that long, and I've watched it so many times and I still get quite creeped out by it.
I think this one, I really liked it as well, and I think what it is, it's got such a good core cast that you've got Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, Freddie Prinze Jr., Anne Hesh. It's like such a kind of great cast, and it seemed to be a lot of these movies at the time maybe had a bit of a like the odd star in it, but these ones seemed like really awesome people, and people that ended up having a pretty good career for the most part, and whether they continued with acting or started doing their own home baking books like Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah. I thought it was a pretty good movie, because I think it spends like at least sort of about 20 odd minutes, maybe 25 minutes, just them like kicking around, having fun, just they're having a normal life. It's not something that's building up to something necessarily. It's just like, these are the people you're going to spend an hour with, like an hour and a half with them. Let's get to know them before we start killing them off, so you have some sort of sympathy for them, or when they get into the situation where they think they've killed someone, you believe in these people and why they would have a panic and fear, like, oh, my chance of going to New York and having a career could be over, etc. I think it was a wise decision, and I think that's a good touch too.
Yeah, I think it's so important to build up that relationship with them, because they typically would be like the villain because they've been the people that have done something wrong, but you can completely like sympathize with them why they kind of choose to make that decision in the spur of the moment. They're all trying to like save their lives that they've got ahead of them, and I mean, we see when it flashes forward a year later that kind of none of them have managed it anyway. Like, it had such a negative effect on all of them. They're all kind of stuck with the guilt and everything anyway. But yeah, I think I'm always, there's no one in that sort of main group that I am like happy to see die. There's no one where I'm like, oh, I don't mind if they die. You really care about everyone, so it's always sad when they start getting killed off.
Which death hurt you the most?
It's, again, there's something about her. It's Sarah Michelle Gellar. That death scene, I watched the time on it when I was watching this, and it's a good like 10-15 minutes from when Barry gets murdered, which is bad enough for her to have to go through. And then just like, she just spends so much time running away and like people trying to help her and just getting in the way, and she is so close to like help. I'm always just like, if she just ran that last like 10 feet, like maybe he wouldn't have got her. I always will her to live. It's really upsetting. It's just, that's always the sort of punch in the stomach.
I think like obviously the fisherman's the main villain in this, but I always think her sister's a bit of a bitch as well. And she's like, oh, I really dislike her. I hate
her sister so much. Like, she's so nasty just for no reason, but then just like how long it takes her to get like Sarah Michelle Gellar to the shop, and even when she's like, I'm being attacked, she's like, all right, okay. Like, she doesn't really, she's not a very nice person. I'm not particularly bothered when she gets hooked later on.
What do you make of the fisherman then? So this is like one of the first big sort of slasher killers post Ghostface. How do you think this one compares to him, or in general?
I think he's good because I like the fact that he's really menacing and that he is willing to like take the time to mess with them. Like, he waits a year, he's sending notes, he does things like he creeps into Helen's bedroom when she's asleep, and he could kill her really easily, but he doesn't. He chops all her hair off instead. I like how, like, creepy and menacing, he's willing to wait, he's quite calculated. I do think he's a bit of a hypocrite that he's getting annoyed at them for almost killing him when the only reason he was out on that road anyway is because he had just murdered someone else. But yeah, I think he's good, and he's scary, and I liked that you really had no idea who he was and what like his kind of motives were until the end, until the kind of reveal at the end. So yeah, I think he's creepy, and he has if there is ever a genuine reason for wanting to murder folk, I think he has quite a good reason for wanting revenge for what happened to him.
What do you think the twist at the end about who was killed and why they were killed was any good, or did it sort of make you roll your eyes a little bit, thinking, what, could you repeat that?
No, I liked it, because you see at the beginning, you see like David Egan sitting on the rocks with the little like charm thing that he's got. So when they kind of talk about it later and they're like, oh, this is the guy we think we hit, it totally makes complete sense. Like, there's no reason why it wouldn't be him. You've no real reason to kind of suspect who it would be. And then it's not until Julie starts sort of delving deeper into David's life with his sister that she kind of realizes that the note that everyone thought was a suicide note is like a threatening note. Instead, it's like the same handwriting as the one she was getting. I think it was a cool reveal that he actually got killed by the dad of his girlfriend who had died the year before. It's like, this town is just going to have year after year of tragedies on the 4th of July. They're never going to be able to escape it.
Yeah, I've not seen the sequels to this movies either. I have watched on YouTube, after watching this movie, I watched the ending clip of the I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Are the sequels any good in your opinion? So I quite like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. It follows on its
spoiler, but the fisherman survived the first film, and he now has a son who's equally as angry for revenge. So it's quite interesting, but the sort of reveal of who the killers are is a bit rubbish in that one. And then the third one isn't very good at all. It sort of takes a supernatural element where they're like, oh, now that this has happened so many times, like the cursed fisherman is just a supernatural entity that kills people who keep secrets. So I wouldn't recommend that one, but I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is still a fun slasher. I would recommend checking that one out.
So the one that followed that came out in August 5th, 1998 is Halloween H2O, and I can never tell if this is a tag, I take it as a tagline, but I'm assuming it's part of the title as well, 20 years later.
Yep.
So I've never watched any of the Halloween movies. I've seen like the first 5 minutes of Halloween 3, so this was my first exposure to Michael Myers, shockingly enough. And how do you kind of feel about this film? Are you sort of a Halloween franchise fan, and how does this one sort of fall for you?
I'm a massive Halloween fan, and I know by the time this one had come out, I had seen Halloween 1 and 2. I remember I had like double cassette collection of the two of them together, one of those horrendous like 6-inch thick boxes that had two VHSs in it together, and I was totally obsessed with them. And I remember when this came out, I was so excited because it was like it was a brand new Halloween film that I could actually watch at the time, and I loved this when I was younger. I watched this so much. It was actually like the first DVD we actually bought when we got a DVD player was Halloween H2O, and I just remember Michael Myers is really scary to me because he doesn't say anything, he really has no emotion, he just never stops chasing you, and I think H2O is a really good like entry into that series. It sort of wipes out the timeline of the later films. It ignores 4, 5 and 6, so it's really like a direct sequel to 2 anyway. So I think it's a good continuation of that story, and it just used to creep me out so much. I absolutely loved it.
Like, this was obviously my first time watching it, and I was really surprised when I put it on yesterday that it was only like an hour and 25 minutes. And like, admittedly, I was trying to put myself in going, right, well, I'm probably one of the few people that's watching H2O without having watched any of the other ones. And I kind of thought, well, maybe I'm going to be one of those sort of like young teens or something in the late 90s that hasn't watched the Halloween movies but is going to go along and sneak into sort of an R-rated film. And I didn't really feel this was like a good entry way in. It was like, it felt like a whole lot of nothing happened to sort of build up to like maybe the last 20 minutes where like the kills all start to happen. It felt quite different to a lot of the other movies we've kind of watched, we're watching in this little episode, where there's killing kind of going on throughout the episode. This one is like just going to take its time, it's going to build up, there's going to be a bit of family drama, a bit of relationships going on, having some like leftover food, and then right here's a kind of killing spree towards the end. It just felt very low key, and I was a bit surprised by that approach myself.
I think what the Halloween movies do quite well, certainly the ones that focus on Laurie, are sort of building her up as a character, following kind of what happens to her, and it's kind of, Michael is more of a stalker, like he because he chooses just to kill on Halloween. He has this one kind of day, he sort of spends a lot of the day like stalking his victims, and then just kind of goes for it all at the end. Like in the first Halloween, he spends a lot of time just creeping around Haddonfield, watching Laurie, watching her friends, until he sort of puts his plan into action. So I think it was quite similar in that vein. It sort of had a big couple of kills at the beginning of the film, and then there was just a lot of him creeping about, bits where you didn't know if it was Laurie or Kerry is her name she's taken because she's faked her death. You didn't know if it was her hallucinating Michael or if it was actually him just messing with her. He sort of, he just kind of hides around in the sidelines until there's this big sort of like massacre at the end. So I think it fits quite well in that perspective, and I think that's why I find him so creepy, because again, he's just willing to like creep about and peep in windows and just like mess with people, and then goes absolutely crazy at the end.
The one thing I did love about this film was Josh Hartnett is so perfectly cast. Like, he really does look like he could be Jamie Lee Curtis's son. It's like, that is some brilliant casting right there. And I think, is this his first ever film as well?
Yeah, it says introducing in the credits, and I know that the reason that he has like the total messed up haircut that he had is because he was like filming The Faculty around about the same time, and they kind of had the same hair doing that. But I do think this is his first one, because I did notice in the credits it was like introducing Josh Hartnett. So yeah.
Yeah, it did put me in the mood to watch The Faculty as well. That was another one of those big blockbuster video rentals that I really want to revisit.
Yeah, no, definitely. He was, I do remember him just being in so many films when I was kind of teenagery. So yeah, it was exciting to see him in this.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt as well. He didn't survive too long. He died before he even gets a credit sequence.
I know, his hockey boot to the face is one of my favourites. Like, I kind of wish we'd seen it, but I do think it's cool that she just kind of comes in the house and just finds him with it like wedged in the middle of his face.
So, moving on from Halloween H2O, we come on to Urban Legend. So this was also another first time watch for me. What was your when did you sort of first see this one, and what's your feelings on this?
I can't really remember when I first saw it. I do remember having it on video, so I feel like it was probably like, I grew up in a really small village, and our like sort of shop also doubled as a video shop, so I would just kind of rent a lot of the horror films that were there. So I feel like I probably rented it from there. But I remember really liking this when I was younger, and I think it's because it has such a cool like niche thing about it of all the deaths are based on urban legends, so there's not really like a predictability to what the death scenes are going to be. Like, I think when a killer has like a particular murder weapon or something, you can kind of guess how everyone's going to die. And I loved the urban legend film because just everyone dies in really like interesting ways, and you don't really know what's going to happen until you're like in the middle of a death scene. So yeah, I just kind of loved it for the novelty factor of seeing all the really like highly constructed deaths.
Did you have a favourite urban legend death?
I'm trying to think. I do really like the guy who gets the pop rocks and the Drano down his throat, because I feel like they spend so much time on the whole thing. Like, if you drink pop rocks and Pepsi at the same time, like, your stomach will explode. You feel like it's going to come back later, but you're like, how can they possibly kill someone with that? And then yeah, Parker at his frat party gets a like beer bong shoved down his throat, and then a packet of pop rocks and like a bottle of bleach, and it's all this like blue foam that just comes out his mouth, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's disgusting, but amazing.
I wasn't kind of too sold on this film as well. I thought it was sort of like, I was wanting sort of a bit more from perhaps the urban legends, but I really thought Alicia Witt was really quite good in sort of the leading role, and it was good to have sort of like, you know, you're so used to sort of like the blonde hair, dark hair, like you have this red-headed kind of kick-ass character. I thought that was a really nice touch as well. Yeah,
I do like it. I do feel like because the whole sort of setup of the reason like her and her friends are getting murdered is because her and her friend at high school accidentally killed a guy while doing the gang beam initiation urban legend. But I feel like her friend was the one who was driving and the one who started it all, and yet she's the person who dies first. She dies getting there's someone in her back seat that creeps up and slices her head off. I feel like Natalie gets quite a hard time of it, that she's the one who gets the target of the killer and all her friends murdered and everything, when really she wasn't the one who was really to blame. The one who was really to blame gets killed first. So I always think that's quite unfair.
And it was quite interesting, like, you get sort of the hint of sort of Tara Reid. I thought this was sort of post-American Pie originally, but I was surprised that she'd starred in this before then, because I was looking at her going, she looks quite different to sort of the American Pie movies, and I thought, has she had like a huge breast implant sort of after those movies? It felt really obvious. I don't know if that was just me.
Yeah, it's hard to judge, because I had so many favourite films at that kind of age that had Tara Reid in them, like, yeah, American Pie, and she was in Josie and the Pussycats and stuff as well, so yeah, I just have fond memories in general of Tara Reid in that pre-Sharknado time period.
Yeah, maybe that's a podcast in itself. Yeah. One day, looking at the life and times of Tara Reid. So that kind of takes us on to our next film, and this was one that when I looked at sort of what each of these films were going to be about, this was the one that kind of got me most interested, and that's Cherry Falls. So this film never actually got released in America or in cinemas compared to the rest. This was like a home video one. So if people aren't perhaps familiar with this one as they are the other ones, how would you sort of describe this film, Kim?
So Cherry Falls is the story of a small town called Cherry Falls, where a murderer starts killing off, not sure how he knows this, but starts killing off the town's virgins. And it kind of follows our main character, Jodie, who's played by Brittany Murphy, who has the best fashion sense ever in this film. I just want to steal everything she's wearing. Her and her boyfriend have kind of been debating having sex, so obviously when there's a killer on the loose that's killing off virgins, it's kind of spurs them on to think about having sex, and spurs the whole town on to think about having sex, actually, because they plan like a big pop your cherry party in an abandoned house. And it kind of it follows it's another one where you don't know who the killer is until near the end. It sort of transpires that it is the son of this girl called Laura Lee Sherman, who was raped by 4 or 5 guys from the high school football team, and because they were like rich and white and male, it just all got swept under the rug, and she had to go and live somewhere else and raised her son to be just full of hate for rage for the men that did what they did to her. So he kind of comes back to town to wreak his revenge on them. So
this one obviously probably was a bit harder to kind of find, but I imagine as a young kid and stuff. How did you sort of discover this film for the first time?
I'm entirely sure I probably watched it on Sky round at my friend Zara's house. Was probably my first sort of exposure to it, and I just really liked it because I feel like it's they're clearly playing on the whole like rule from Scream off, it's usually the people that go off and have sex, they're the people that are first to die. This is sort of turning it completely on its head and killing off virgins instead. So I quite like that sort of that angle to it. It was a little bit different, and I quite obviously you find out at the end that it's not a woman, it's a teacher in drag, but I quite liked that at the beginning you think it's a female serial killer who can run about 100 miles an hour in high heel boots, which is very impressive, because you don't see a lot of female serial killers in films. But yeah, it sort of turns out he's just doing a Norman Bates and dressing up as his mum before he kills people.
I really quite like this one. I think it was my favourite of the bunch, and I just think it's I can see why a film like this they'd be a bit nervous about kind of putting it into the cinemas. That you think of a lot of the movies, that are kind of in and around the time, and you sort of read the summary, you think, why would they perhaps not release this film in the cinemas? And then you watch it and you think, okay, it's very open about rape, people losing their virginity, and I can almost see someone being maybe in the 90s being a bit prudish and thinking, well, we can't really promote this in the cinema. And it's just, things like that are touched upon in the other movies, as you kind of highlight, but perhaps none are sort of hitting the point home as much as this one. They really are clear in what they're trying to say. And I think Brittany Murphy, I was watching this and I thought she was so great in this role, and it just kind of made me sad that she's sort of no longer with us. She's similar to Tara Reid, this sort of era for her. She was starring in so many great movies and shows, and she was just such a great talent.
I really love her character, because I think I just think she's such like an interesting story to follow. Like, she is questioning like what to do with her boyfriend. She has this really close relationship with her dad, and then obviously that's challenged because she finds out that he was one of the rapists that attacked Laura Lee. She also has quite a close relationship with her teacher, Mr. Marlston, who turns out to be the killer. And then at the end of the film, they're sort of talking about, why would he be killing like her dad and her friends and stuff, and she basically sort of helps cover it up all over again, and she's like, I've got no idea. She sort of helps like protect her dad in his death. And I think she's just quite a relatable character, and she's a good final girl as well, because the scene where the killer attacks her in like the classroom, she just absolutely destroys him. She like jumps off on shelves, she's like throwing jars, she like swings a plastic shark at him. She is not going down without a fight, so I love her.
Yeah, and it's like that ending is just so nuts as well. Like I was watching it in another room to my girlfriend. I came back and she went, "Oh, so what did you watch?" And I was like, "Well, there's this film called Cherry Falls," and I sort of described it much as you did. And you just see her face like looking really confused, and then at the end he's running around with a wig on, just wildly stabbing students that are at a big sex party, and it's just like, yeah, and I like that. It just felt absolutely nuts, and I really, really liked it quite a bit. It was, it was the best of the bunch for me.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when I think kind of too much about his motive for killing people, I get a bit confused as to what he was trying to do, because he says it's kind of like, oh, he wants to take away the only innocence that the adults of the town have left after like what they did to his mum, but it seems a bit harsh on the poor virgins. And then he just starts killing people at the party anyway, so kind of loses his motive a bit at the end.
Yeah, it is so ridiculous when you think about it. Like, this is my grand plan, is for people to fucking have a good time, and the parents, there's nothing they can do about it. It's like, really? Like, that's, at most you're probably going to have some maybe annoyed parents. Like, if they'd maybe pitched it more of this sort of like, it's a Catholic kind of school, and there's this sort of thing, like, you never get the impression, you think, well, it seems like a sort of typical like late 90s early 2000s school, like, most parents are maybe going to have a big talk with them, or maybe someone's going to be taken to get some morning after pill, but like, you can't imagine it having some sort of disastrous consequences.
I know, because his main thing seems to be to like orchestrate the sex party. It's not really about like how many people he can kill, because once he sort of kidnaps Jodie's dad and kind of takes his revenge on him, like, it seems like that'd probably be enough. He'd probably be fine with it. So yeah, it's a bit don't think too much about the motive, just enjoy the rest of it, because it's very fun.
Do you think if they made this film nowadays, it would just be like someone makes a Facebook page going, sex party, location 1900 hours, Dave's house or something like that, bring some condoms and lube or something like that? Like, that would just be it. It would be like the film would be over in 5 minutes and going, look at the parents now. Yeah,
they probably wouldn't need to do all the brutal murders at the beginning to set it off. They just have to get out there.
So that kind of brings us to our sort of final film, and this is one that's sort of the only one that's on the UK Netflix, so you're able to catch that, and that's Valentine. Yep. So when did you sort of first catch this film? I
think again, it would have been not long after it came out. Would have been on Sky, because it has Angel from Buffy in it, and as a teenager I was obsessed with Buffy and Angel, so I would have watched it purely just because he was in it. That would have been definitely the starting point.
Yeah, this was why I wanted to see it as a kid. I loved Buffy and Angel as the TV show, and it was always quite cool when you saw like people from TV shows that you liked go to movies. It felt like a huge step up. So I remember being really keen to see this film, but for some reason, and I think everyone knew it, that like, oh yeah, he's clearly like the killer, without even having to watch the film. He's like, so it's a whole cast of women, and these women are being killed. Yeah, it must be that one and only guy that's on the poster.
Yeah, actually, when I was watching it the other night, I have it on DVD, and I was reading the back of the DVD case, and they just tell you that he's the killer on the DVD. They're like, a boy that they all went to school with and harassed has been hunted by the police, and then in brackets it just has his name. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that kind of spoils it a bit. Yeah, I think I feel like out of all the films I kind of like that are a bit maybe perceived as rubbish, I think Valentine gets the hardest time, and I'm not really sure what people's problem is with it. Like, I really like it. I even just watching it again, I was like, nah, I don't really see why people hate it. I really enjoy it. I think it's good fun.
Yeah, I actually think it's got some interesting gender politics, to be honest, because you've got this sort of cast of women that are being made to pay for sort of like, rejecting this guy, and like they literally will, men are coming on to them because, well, it's Denise Richards, she is this beautiful looking woman, I'm sure she has no amount of people that are looking to impress her, and it's just like the way they'll sort of humiliate men like that are kind of expecting sex from them or attention. It's like that scene where she takes him into the bedroom, gets him all tied up, and then just pours the wax all over him. Like they are. Some of them are a bit like the person that faked the rape, like, or that he sexually assaulted me. Like, that is bad. But like any of their other behavior, apart from being somewhat bitchy, is really that bad. And it seems quite nice that you've got this film where, you know, women are sort of knocking back the men. It's so easy in these films where they all kind of leap towards having sex or relationships. With these, they're like, no, I think little of you, and I'm going to humiliate you for making me feel like I owe you anything.
Yeah, I'm not like a super fan of a motive of just like male entitlement leading to murder, obviously. So yeah, I think the fact that he is so angry at like the whole group of friends, and he's only nice to Kate because she was like, didn't immediately flat out reject him, is a bit ridiculous. I can obviously see why the character of Dorothy gets the worst of it, because she was the one who implied that he attacked her, and then he sort of got sent to like reform school and stuff. So I can see why he sort of sets it up and frames her for all the murders. But yeah, I think every single male character in this film is absolute trash. Like, there is no redeeming. Even like Adam, who's Angel from Buffy, he is like nice looking and everything, but he's still supposed to be like an alcoholic and a bit abusive, and then obviously he turns out to be a murderer. Everyone else is just really creepy. There's guys from like speed dating that are just horrible, and internet dating that are just weird, and even the policeman who's supposed to be like in charge of the case and looking after them, he takes every chance he can get to like hit on Paige, who's Denise Richards. So yeah, this film is not kind to guys in the slightest.
And I always thought, like, I think David Boreanaz isn't the best perhaps in this role. Like,
no.
Towards the end when he's like the alcoholic, it's like, that's just such bad acting. And I just sort of like the beginning bit where it's sort of setting the scene of the film, I was immediately sort of on board with this film, because I was like, it's quite naff. Like, you see this young bullied kid underneath the seats in sort of the gym hall, and just like, can I get a dance? Can I get a dance? And he's like being knocked back, and it's like the music's playing, it's sort of slow motion shots, this little boy's being jilted, and it's like, and like we're clearly getting the impression like this guy is going to go on and start killing, that it was women that knocked him back for a dance. And it's like, we've all probably been there in some way or another, where someone's went, nah, I'm dancing with my friends just now, or, you know, hey, maybe I'll get you later. Like, I don't think most of us would, or any of us would probably go towards killing, but it was so cheesy in those first few minutes, and it sort of kept up a kind of nice consistent tone. It didn't feel too serious the whole time, that it was like, this is sort of an enjoyable like 90-minute watch. Yeah, I love a slasher film where it has like a really convoluted backstory as to why the person's killing, and I love that he makes like ridiculously detailed like Valentine's Day cards to like send to them to be vaguely threatening as well. I think that's hilarious. But yeah, no, I always think like the last sort of shot in the film really portrays like Adam's bad acting in that scene, because like the whole way through is like, at the beginning you see the little boy is called Jeremy. He gets like a nosebleed when he is getting stressed. So the whole way through, the killer has always got a nosebleed like running down their mask. So you know the kid is the killer. You just don't necessarily definitely know who the kid is as an adult. And then yeah, the final shot is him sitting there with like all this blood pouring down his face and trying to look really like manic. And I always think it kind of ruins it, like the face that he pulls at the end. Maybe should have went a different way with that last shot. It kind of ruins it right at the end. If they made this film like in 2019, what do you think would be different? If like you've got this kind of Cupid killer, how would he do things differently? Oh, I don't know. I guess I feel like they kind of played on the whole like anonymous dating angle a little bit with like speed dating, and they had a bit of like online dating as well, and they also had videotape dating, which is dates this film impressively. But I think maybe like Tinder would be involved in some way, like convincing them to swipe right and then murdering them or something. I think that'd be quite cool. I can imagine maybe instead of sending like cards, he would just send like really aggressive tweets. So I can imagine maybe like you're one of the people like log in, like, Kim, you're a bitch, I hope you die and eat your own intestines, it'll be like, oh, there's another white male on Twitter block. So I can imagine that being the case this day.
Yeah, really like threatening dick pics or something. Like
yeah, just like a guy with like a knife and just this like like unsolicited dick pic. Yeah, that I think there's going to be a remake now.
I would watch it. I love Valentine. I just don't know why. I just hear a lot of people whenever I sort of bring it up or talk about it. I feel like it gets a lot more hate than a lot of these films that came out at the same time, and I just don't get what people's problem is with it. I think it's really interesting, and I'm entirely sure the first time I watched it, like trying to guess who the killer was, I feel like they do a quite decent job of sort of trying to. They're basically like, yeah, it's this guy, but maybe it's not. We'll find out right at the end. Like, I think that is quite cool.
So, kind of now that we've sort of watched all these 5 films and looking back on them, was there any sort of, when you rewatched them, that made you feel any different, or was there sort of anything that came out where you thought, oh, this, I see a nice little trend between these movies, sort of as you watch them one after another?
I feel like you can sense that they came out like after Scream. Like, there is a sort of like self-awareness to them. Even like in I Know What You Did Last Summer, they talk a lot about like the Hook Man, like urban legend. They're kind of very aware of that, and like in the actual urban legend film as well, they're like very aware of kind of these like urban legends and kind of what's going on, and I think like as well with Cherry Falls, the whole like actually having sex to kind of save you from the killer, that's sort of twisting it on its head as well. So I think, yeah, you can just you get the impression that they did come out after Scream, that they've sort of taken a little bit of what Scream kind of taught us about horror films and about the rules and stuff. They obviously don't go as deep in on it as Scream did. But I've been watching these films. I mean, I know that I definitely saw Halloween H2O when it came out, so I've been watching these films for like 20 years, and I still really like I really like all of them. I actually forgot how creepy I Know What You Did Last Summer is. I think it's definitely the tensest of the bunch of them, and there's not a lot of people actually get murdered in total. I think between Johnny Galecki's character getting a hook in the chin and then Barry getting killed, it's a good like hour. So it's definitely got a different sort of tone to it, but I think that one, yeah, I've kind of just forgot how good that one was. I think I maybe remember the sequel more, which is a bit more slash happy.
I definitely maybe need to check that one
Yeah.
out and maybe kind of dive into sort of the original Halloween and
Yeah.
maybe the current remake. But no, it's been quite fun rewatching these movies or some of the Scream cases and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then checking some of these ones out for the first time. I had a friend the other day that noted, you seem to be watching a lot of 90s slasher movies on your Letterboxd. Are you doing a podcast on them or something? I went, well, it's exactly that reason. So no, thank you very much for recommending these ones, and hopefully this isn't going to be the first and last time that we get you on the show. Hopefully we'll get you on for more chat soon.
Yeah, awesome. I would love that.
So kind of to wrap up as well, we'll sort of continue our sort of 52 films by women pledge. So what is your recommendation for this week?
So I decided to pick another film from this sort of period that I love and not a lot of people seem to like as well, and that is The Rage, Carrie 2, which is directed by Kat Shea. I think I'm saying her surname right. So this is a sequel to the 1976 film Carrie, which is obviously a Stephen King story, and it follows Carrie's half-sister. They shared a dad. She also has like repressed telekinetic powers that it's actually quite a similar sort of theme to Cherry Falls. Her friend kills herself after sort of the football team play this like prank where they're just playing like a sex game with all the girls and giving them scores and stuff. And when she finds out, she kills herself, and the sort of anger of that happening to her friend is what brings Rachel's telekinetic powers to the front. And I really like this. I think it's a cool I think the original Carrie is like so female focused, and it obviously starts with her like getting her period, and she's the main character, so it's kind of the real horror that happens in the film is just all the crap that teenage girls have to put up with. And I think it's easy to sort of write the sequel off because it's like a sequel to Carrie and it came like 30 years later, so it feels like they're just cashing in on it. But I feel like the themes are important and they sort of brought it up to date with this whole thing of just placing more importance on like male rich white privilege than like vulnerable women, and I think it does that really well. So I would, if you've not seen it and you think it's just going to be rubbish because it's a rubbish sounding Stephen King sequel, I would definitely watch it. I really like this.
I need to check that one out. You've actually managed to make it sound like something I think, oh, that could be
nice.
quite fascinating.
Yeah.
So my recommendation, and it's one you can actually catch in the cinemas on Thursday the 28th at the Cameo as part of their Cameo and Out season, and that's Appropriate Behaviour, sort of written, directed and starring Desiree Akavan. She directed The Miseducation of Cameron Post, and she starred and produced the sort of fantastic Channel 4 series The Bisexual. I don't know if you've seen any of those ones, Kim?
No, I haven't, no.
I'd highly recommend Cameron Post. I think
cool.
you'd really enjoy that one. Got Chloe Grace Moretz, who played Carrie in the
nice.
The remake. So there you go. See, nice little 3 degrees of separation. But this is the story of Desiree Akavan's character, Shirini, who is the daughter of like Parisian immigrants, and she's been living with her girlfriend for quite a few years, and they've broken up, and now she sort of is trying to move on from this relationship and come out to sort of her very sort of conservative parents that she is in fact a lesbian. And it's a really quite a fun movie. And Desiree Akavan, she's only sort of done this in Cameron Post and sort of The Bisexual, which was like 6-part series which you can find on Channel 4, and she is such a great kind of advocate for sort of LGBT films. She is such a character in herself that you watch sort of interviews with her and watch her in any of her movies or whatever, and you think, I would really like to hang out with her and talk with her. She's she comes from such a unique background where, coming from sort of the sexuality that she does is something that's incredibly quite unique, and she's been a real great advocate for it. And a movie like Appropriate Behaviour really is a good platform for that. So most people will have probably seen Cameron Post if they've kind of heard of the name. This one is a bit harder to find out, but you get a rare chance to catch it on the big screen this week. So I highly recommend people check that one out. So that brings to an end our sort of our horror double bill of episodes. So Kim, hopefully we'll have you back on again soon. So I think we're going to be discussing Pet Sematary in a few weeks, so hopefully we'll have you on for that one as well. I saw the full trailer for it the other day, so I'm curious to check that one out now. I think it isn't what I ever expected it to be. I thought it was actually going to be cats coming back from the dead, but there seems to be lots of masks and creature features and stuff. So yeah, I'm curious to see that one and talk about that. I have a feeling you've probably seen all the previous Pet Sematary movies.
Yeah, I have. I am a massive Stephen King fan. And yeah, Pet Sematary, the book, the film, even the sequel's quite good. So I'm super excited to go and see this. So yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, you're going to be our expert on this one. You can guide the ignorant guy that's only ever seen sort of the reboot through it. So
excellent.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that one in no doubt a couple weeks time. So thank you very much for joining me, and you can find us obviously on thenerdparty.com, on Twitter at Join Nerd Party, Instagram /The Nerd Party. You can find us easily, just type us into Google. So thank you very much to everyone for joining us, and make sure to watch Valentine on Netflix. Bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.